Taylin, how we doing?
Dude, I'm doing great. Today is one of those days I actually am genuinely doing great, though. Everybody always says that. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep last night. I woke up feeling tired. I thought today might be a shit day, but I'm a few hours in now, and it's a great day, and I'm feeling energized. And sometimes it just goes that way. So yeah, actually doing great.
There's so many people that are looking to talk about writing and how to write in a real structured way. I think my first impression when I first started my business, actually, my first tweet was a year ago, so March 20th, 2024, funny enough.
Damn.
So,
Congrats.
yeah,
Happy year tweet anniversary.
yeah, I was just looking at the calendar. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, it is a year. So, when I first got on X and then I ended up going to LinkedIn, my first assumption was I'm just going to post tweets. Everyone's going to like them. It's going to be great. It's going to be easy. It was obviously not. It's a very humbling experience in the beginning, just thinking that you're going to share your thoughts and they're just going to grab attention. And I would love to hear about, I guess, your story of when you first started writing online and how you really found that process of beginner to expert to be.
Yeah, it's kind of like the bell curve meme, I think it is, where it's like, oh my God, I don't know how to write. This is crazy. And the guy's crying, and then at the very like top or whatever, he's like freaking out because he's thinking, do I write a platitude? Do I write a listicle? Do I do a story? What do I do for the idea? What's the angle? And then it goes back to like, I'm just gonna write or whatever. It's something like that. They're the beginner and the expert, like I'm just gonna write. It's been a long evolution though. One thing I've realized with tweets or short form writing in general over the 3 years I've been writing is short form is meant to be condensed emotion. It's just the most emotionally impactful version of the idea that's distilled. There's not a lot of nuance, there's not a lot of explanation. It's just say the thing and get out. And when I started, that was the hardest thing for me to do. Like every tweet broke character limit. Every idea that I tried to write was like an essay. And I remember looking at the tweet limit, like 280 characters or whatever it is, thinking, how the heck do I get this idea down into 280 characters? And that's why starting on X or Twitter is, I think, one of the best ways to learn writing because it teaches you to be succinct, the opposite of school writing. It teaches you, okay, you only have 280 characters. How are you going to say this? I think that's such an amazing exercise. And even now, when I write long form or threads or I script videos, I think, how do I make this idea fit in 280 characters? And it just becomes like punchy sections over and over again instead of me rambling on about certain ideas. So that was the biggest evolution for me was learning to write more succinctly, condense the ideas, and oh man, there's a million other things. I don't know. Do you want me to keep going? There's one other big one.
Keep going. I mean, why not?
Yeah, so this is a problem that I see a lot of beginners when they're starting out. They fall into one of two problems as writers. They either are really conservative and they emulate everybody and they sound like everybody. They have no uniqueness. They just look at what's working, they copy it so closely that it's like, hey, is this Dan Co like 17.50? Or is this sounds like Alex Camel, but doesn't look like Alex Camel? Like what the heck? And then the second version is actually where I started, is you don't want to sound like anybody else. You really value authenticity and you value being different. So you say, I'm going to word everything totally different and totally new. And you just make this stuff and you write that sounds like it doesn't make any sense. And no one connects with it. Nobody gets it because it's too different. There's this one student that he put out a tweet the other day, how to use vision logic to change your life or something. And I remember messaging him because I seen my younger self in him. I said, dude, very few people know what the fuck vision logic is. Like you're losing people in the first sentence. And that was a really tough journey for me to just drop my ego and learn that there's a happy middle. It's okay, these ideas are validated, these frameworks are validated, this is written in a way that is relatable and meets people where they're at and they read it and they connect with it, but it's also a little bit different and it has my unique perspective. It has language that I would specifically use. It has a style and a flair that I would use, but it's not so different that we're out here in no man's land. I think that's one of the hardest things for writers to learn. And I actually think it's better for most of them when they're starting out to start more conservative and to emulate and to understand what works before they try to be different and do something with a bit more zest or taste and uniqueness, because it's easier to nail this one than it is to nail this one.
My thought behind that writing, because those two different methods. Once you said that, I resonated right away with Danco point 17.5 because of the idea. And when I started,
Yeah.
I was all like most people. I started. I was listening to Danco's stuff. I was like, all right, this is the framework he uses. This is what I want to write. And then I just started sending out posts that were like him, that of course were not original at all. Now, how I compare it to my sales career in a way is that you're given a script. You're giving a sales
Mhm.
script in the beginning of your career and your job, and you're just reading it line for line. Now, of course, it's not really good, it's not authentic at all, but you're going through the motions and you're going through the steps. And the more comfortable you get with those motions and steps, the more personalized you can make it, which is kind of
Yeah.
what my process was. It was, generic Dan
Mhm.
co-posting, and then it's like, all right, I could put a little bit of Alex in here, and then it just slowly kind of evolved into my own actual personal writing. Then it was
Mhm.
that part of the bell curve when you were saying like, all right, now I can just write. Like I just want to write, get my
Yeah.
thoughts out because the the muscle memory of the framework is kind of there.
So true. Like the just writing part comes in when okay, I'm being too close to this. Like this is too similar to what everyone else is saying. It's going to be too generic. But you can also identify, this is a little too weird. I have to bring it back to meet people where they're at. Like when you have those patterns in your head because you've written so much content, you've consumed so much content, that's when it gets easier to just write. And that's when the fun begins. So for anyone who's starting out and they're writing and it takes a lot of work, maybe to write a single tweet takes them like 30 minutes, or to write a LinkedIn post takes forever. It's like, man, it's like a full-time job on top of my full-time job. That stage doesn't last forever. Eventually, it does get more fun where you're not sitting down and it's so clunky and so hard to write something, and you really do just start to have more like play. As cheesy as that sounds, you enter flows and you start to play more. Oh yeah, I know roughly what I have to do here, and like, oh, this could be fun to weave in this sentence, or it could be fun to use this analogy and use AI to help you with some of that, and it becomes, I would say, a lot more fun once you get past that beginner part of the bell curve, or maybe the top hump, I should say.
Right.
Yeah.
There's actually something I was thinking about because you were mentioning that you're not writing like you're in school anymore. But
Mhm.
sometimes when I think about writing my content, I think about, of course, you want to be the master of your niche, the master of your writing niche. So you're almost the professor of your niche. And
Mhm.
as a previous professor yourself, I mean, you've probably gone through the difficulty of trying not to write in school format, but trying to teach in kind of a school format. How has that process been for you? And kind of, I guess, what were the days when I guess you were doing both as a professor and as a writer?
Yeah, that's a great question. People falsely assume that I used to be an English teacher. I have never taught English in my life. I barely know English myself. My co-founder always jokes that I have the worst grammar and sentence structure of any writer in the world. He's like, you kind of write backwards from what most people would do in university. Um, I used to teach music, but what teaching taught me more than anything that applies to writing is to think in systems. Because let's imagine you walk into a classroom and someone's like, okay, I want you to teach me something. And you know what most people would do? They would say, well, I just open up a doc and I write down my ideas, and then this one would be a good tweet. So I just write it as a tweet. Oh, and I maybe use a framework for that. And it just works. Like I just feel it. And I've heard teachers do this. Like some of my friends who have even tried to teach, a student will say, hey, how do I improve this? And they'll just look at it and say, I just feel like it's wrong. They go, why? I just feel like something's off. I don't know, the hook's not right. I just feel it. And because they have that intuition, they have enough reps that they have unconscious competence. But to be a teacher is to learn all the way through until you have unconscious competence, when you can just do the thing without thinking about it. And it is then to take it not a step backwards, but it's almost like going to meta competence. I guess that's a term I just made up on the fly right there,
There we go.
where
Confidence.
you become conscious of your competence again, but in a way that you can teach it. And the only way to do that, that I can see to get results for people, is to break stuff into a system. First, you're going to do this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this. And without a system, how does anybody learn anything? You can't just tell them to be intuitive, although that is ultimately what gets the best results, is when you're so good at something that you just write from intuition. But how terrible of advice would that be if I said, Alex, hey, I know you want to learn to writing. Just listen to what's in here, man. It'll tell you. You're like, I've never written before. This doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't know.
You get into a
So
coaching program, and they're just like, follow your dreams.
follow your dreams, follow your gut, man. It's like, yeah, follow your gut works when you've had the right inputs, that your gut is like smart, basically. It knows. There's a
Mhm.
lot of times my gut's been wrong because I didn't have the right experiences yet for the gut to know what was right and what was wrong, what would work and what wouldn't. So that's what I would say is teaching really taught me about the importance of systems and being able to take your process and turn it into a system, which is very hard to do for some people, especially the more intuitive types. So that's the biggest overlap, I would say.
I think the way I picture that in my mind is like you were going through the process. You're climbing up the hill. You're just you're just churning away all the way to the top. And then when you're getting to that point, being able to kind of throw the step ladder down to help people get there faster, just because of the idea that it's
Yeah.
taken you so long to do this process, and just of course you could say, oh, just climb up the hill. It's just easy. I did it, stuff like that. But that
Yeah.
step by step breakdown, because when you're at the bottom of the hill looking up, and there's all of these things you see you have to do, it gets overwhelming, and it's just like, okay, why am I doing this? Am I looking at this and that? And then there's this shiny new hill over there in the corner that you're like, oh, I can climb that one faster. So it's just so many different ways of just trying to keep that quick wins, trying to keep that in someone's mind, especially through a program or just through teaching people any kind of method. Is all right, let's accomplish step one, then let's move on to the next one and just kind of get there through that way.
Dude, I love that. You've helped me in this process of your explanation. Just think through something that has taken me too long to learn, as much as I hate to admit it, is in the beginning for a lot of people, their problem isn't necessarily a lack of skill, it's a lack of belief. And it's that they don't believe that they can do it yet. And you're right about the quick wins and how important it is to get quick wins to give people the motivation to keep going, even in the short term. Like it's if someone's already skeptical, let's say, because I teach ghostwriting now, I help people become ghostwriters. If they're like, I'm not sure if ghostwriting is going to work for me, I'm not sure if I could be a good writer, but I'm going to take a shot on the program and I'm going to see what happens. And we're 2 months in and they haven't even gotten one quick win. Their motivation's going down. Every time they sit down to write, they're defeating themselves. They think whatever I do isn't going to work. And it's that mindset battle is one of the hardest things to overcome in the beginning, is convincing yourself with like micro wins over and over again, that this new thing, this new hard thing you're doing is going to actually work for you as well. So as much as the system for learning is important, it's even more important to get people bought into the idea that they can actually do it. Because once they're bought in, it doesn't matter how much challenges they come up, they're more likely to see it through and to believe that they can overcome that challenge. But if they don't even believe they can overcome it, that's a very hard student to help.
Exactly. And if they believe it, it's people feel okay asking stupid questions, which are never stupid questions, just because people feel confident that, all right, I just don't know this right now, but I'm going to figure it out. And there's this part,
Mm-hmm.
and there is, of course, when most people buy into whether it's a service or program or anything, you need to kill the buyer's remorse. And the
Yes.
best way that I've seen people do that, including yourself, is just being able to create that clear, structured framework. Okay, we're getting off the call. You're in the program, you're in the service. This is what we're going to do. Step one. This is what I'm responsible for. This is what you're responsible for. Step two, same thing, going on and
Mm-hmm.
on. This is what we'll accomplish by step two, by step four. And then just giving that framework, because it is that kind of sense of I just don't want to feel lost, and I want to have constant communication. And it's through my experiences, just learning how much communication is just integral to any process. I mean, it sounds so obvious in the
Yeah.
background, but really just making sure you have very, very clear instructions, and then just offering an avenue for any questions. Sometimes people will be like, "Oh, I just hope they read my mind." But when you reach out and say, "Hey, what questions do you have for me? What are you
Yeah.
working on? What are you concerned with currently?" The floodgates will open, and there'll be a million things that'll come out and be like, "Oh, why didn't you?" You'll think in the back of your head, "Oh, why didn't you tell me this?" But asking almost for permission to share that kind of knowledge.
Yeah. Wait, I feel like you're just kicking my brain in all directions
This is
today, which
great. This
is
is
which is good. I
brainstorm.
love it. Yeah, you're very stimulating. What it reminds me of is at Growth Ghost, we implemented like a whole student success team that I'm currently running, and it's all based on accountability. Every week, our students send in a check-in or a progress report. Here's how things are going. Here's some wins that I got, so that you're making it front of mind for them because people forget about their wins. But also, here's where I feel stuck. Here's the challenges that I'm facing, and I would like some help. And then I personally reach out to them every week and ask, like, okay, hey, I see that you're struggling with this. And then I help them, coach them through whatever problem it might be. Might be struggling with focus, with time management, with writing hooks, could be anything. But if we didn't have them do the check-ins, or we didn't have somebody reach out, I don't think we would know that our students are struggling with these things. That's definitely a big mistake I've made in previous coaching programs, is not reaching out as often as I could have to all the members and all the students to ask them, because not everybody wants to ask for help or wants to bring those challenges up. They just want to seem like they have it all together and they're going through the program when they don't. So having that accountability, as you were saying earlier, is so essential for helping people get through the hardest part of doing anything new, which is the first steps.
And what's funny when you say that is it makes me think there's two kinds of people that join the community and how they typically act, I guess, within habits. There is that side where it's I'm hoping they reach out to me and ask me for what I need, and then I'll ask, and then I'll tell them. And then there's people that will give you every single problem that's ever happened, and just overflood and overthink. Because what the funny thing is,
Yeah.
when I was learning from you for writing, I'd be like, Taylin, this tweet's too short. I don't know what to do, and something like that, where it was just a part of the process. And I think it's either getting them when they're needing someone to reach out to them, it's getting them motivated. And when it's someone asking a million questions, they're usually not important questions. So it's usually getting people focused. And I feel
Mm.
like that middle ground for handling just like the psychology of both different types of personalities is something that you've managed very well, especially just experiencing it firsthand.
That's an interesting framework that I haven't thought of. When you say for the one personality type that might be a little bit more in their head, there's maybe more catastrophe, more anxiety, and you say to get them focused. What do you mean by that?
In my mind, I think of when someone's stressed, I think of two different types of people that are stressed. I think of someone that's so stressed that they shut down, and then I think of the overshare. I think of someone that is like, if I tell everyone my anxieties and my troubles, then maybe it'll ease the burden and things like that. And that
Mm.
is almost a false sense of productivity is, all right, I'm going to
Yeah.
tell all of my problems and then hopefully someone out there will figure it out. So that's kind of,
Mm.
and then I
Mm.
think being able to, with those types of people, having them become more grounded, because that's something that I've experienced personally is I will,
Mm.
if I have someone that I'm working with, I'll tell them every single problem from the way I brush my teeth to the last tweet I sent out. So being able to first of all acknowledge that, and then being able to kind of ground myself in the basics is something that I found beneficial for myself and people that I've
Mm.
seen within kind of similar tendencies.
Yeah, that's some really good perspective. I hadn't thought about it that way, but I agree. Especially the grounding yourself in the basics part. That was one thing being a college teacher for 7 years taught me, was that being good is just about doing the basics really, really well. And what was frustrating about teaching college is students always wanted to feel like they were learning something new and cool. They really liked novelty, but they didn't like the process of attaining mastery. So, mastery would be, hey, this thing I taught you yesterday, we're going to do that every day until you can do it so good that it's boring. Now, you do that at a school, students might get good results, but they would complain really quickly. So we had to change the curriculum because we got too many student complaints that it was too boring. because we were having them do the same thing over and over again when they should be learning something new every week. So then we would start injecting novelty, and students were happier in the short term. They'd say, this cool thing. They would leave the class almost buzzing. There's this new cool thing I learned, this new cool technique. But then closer to the end of the program, they wouldn't be writing as good of stuff as the students who pursued mastery and took that process of doing the basics really, really well. And I noticed that when I was giving them feedback, they'd say, my song's not working. I would go over, and 90% of the time, I was helping them fix a basic problem. It was very, very rare that it was something advanced or that you would do every now and then, very situational. It was usually a fundamental principle in the basics. And seeing that firsthand really changed my approach to learning and approach to mastery, where other people are looking for what's the newest framework, what's the newest tip, what's the newest hack, what's the newest algo update. I just always think if you master the principles, you can be adaptable enough to work in any algorithm, to get followers, leads in any situation. You just need to know the principles so well that you can adapt, which has really helped me learn quickly. And I attribute that technique and that experience of learning that as a college teacher to being able to help me get the success that I've got today.
It's so funny because it's that principle of accessibility. If it's so easily accessible, it's almost deemed as not as valuable, which of course psychologically, can make sense. Like if I pay $3 for a gym membership, I'm not gonna really go or think it's that valuable. As opposed to if I'm paying $200 a month for the gym, I'm gonna go every day. So
Yeah.
it's just that same thing with the basic principles. I feel like there's, what's the secret trick that Taylin's doing, but he's not telling us. But the plain answer is probably just, no, I'm just doing this every day consistently, and I'm doing it well because I've practiced it. And I think that is also involved within the shiny object syndrome. Is just new technique, something
Yeah.
cool here and there. But let me ask you this. I'm going to put you in a box here. So I'm going to give you 3 basic principles to share. If you were to only sum it down to 3 principles for writing on X, on LinkedIn, social media, or just anywhere, what would you just simplify as the 3 basic principles? I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, it's a great question. Okay, so if somebody wanted to get good really quickly to the point that they could grow their audience, they could get leads, they could launch a business, the first thing I would say is you do have to emulate content, which sounds really trite. Be like, yeah, I know everyone always says to emulate other people. I mean, no, like really try to understand what other people are doing. Go and look at the content. Be like, okay, why does this work? Why does this hook work? And then write something similar, but swap out very specific pieces. That would be the second principle. Is first one is you're going to emulate. You're just going to look, okay, why is this working? I'm going to do something very similar sentence structure. The second part is you have to be able to identify why something actually worked. This is like, the students that are on the track, they're so close. This is the thing they get wrong. They'll look at somebody else's hooks and think, this says like the most common, most misunderstood problem in the world, childhood trauma. They're like, this hook worker said the most misunderstood problem. They'll say the most understood problem, focus, a lack of focus. No, that's not why that hook worked. That hook worked because it's about childhood trauma. It's not because of the first part of the sentence. You have to be able to look at the post and identify what is the emotional core that gets somebody to read this. What's the topic? What's the interesting thing? So, and that's when you have to know how to switch it out. So, okay, this piece of content worked because it talked about childhood trauma. So if I swap childhood trauma for overthinking or introversion or anxiety, it will also work with this post because it has a similar emotional center to it. So that would be the second principle. That one is quite hard to learn unless you consume a lot of content and you break down a lot of content, you test a lot. The third one would probably be some factor of uniqueness and identifying what is the 1 or 2 big differentiators to you or that you have that are relevant to your audience and that they will resonate with, but give you a competitive advantage. And this is the differentiation factor, right? You can think of it as the first part is I'm understanding the meta and how stuff works. I'm not reinventing the wheel. The second part is I'm understanding the topics and like how to write with emotion. The third part is I'm understanding how to position and be different. And for this one, it's usually not something crazy. People think I need like all these millions of things or this crazy big trait that helps me stand out. Like, not really. You just need something that is relatable to a certain group of people that you are just naturally good at or have an edge. Some people joke that I'm like the philosophy and writing guy, which is just that I like to understand things deeply. And that's probably my edge to some degree. But it also alienates some people because some people say, there's too much depth. I just want simple. I don't want to think it through. I just want to know like the basics, and I don't want to know anything else. So that differentiator for me is that's good. That's a good thing because I attract the tribe that's like me and wants to understand things like me and has a similar worldview, and I repel other people. And then, being a college teacher is a differentiator of mine. People tend to resonate with the authority that it has and the credentialism. I don't know if that's a word, the credentials of it. I told you my English is bad. But yeah, you just have to know, like, everybody has something that makes them a little bit different. It's hard to know that about yourself. But once you find those three things, I would say you can crush socials pretty hard.
I think the second point you said, the understanding the emotion behind the hook
Mm,
and what is the emotional capture point of the post is probably just like you said, those people that are right there. I think that is the 1% change that people talk about. Just 1% change that really just helps people skyrocket their content in terms of whether it is views, whether it's leads, whether it's anything that is the metric that they're looking for. And I believe we were talking a couple months ago, or maybe 6 months ago. It's been a while, but we were talking about content, and I remember you having this framework of write out a piece of content. Sorry if I'm giving away some information here, but
all
you're
good.
saying write out a piece of content and then label on the piece of content what emotion you're trying to elicit. And that was incredibly detailed to me because then I would put out posts and say, "Oh, I was not even trying to get any emotion out of this. I was just trying to
Mm,
write about this thing and stuff like that." And what I found myself doing through that change was going less into the need for likes and
mm,
replies and just random people liking it and just not even having anything to do with my brand and not repelling anyone and not attracting anyone deeply either, because you want to almost be polarizing, because people are going to have to pick a side, and whether they're against you or with you, they at least have an opinion. So I think that really
yeah.
helped create that big difference within my content. And I think that's what a lot of people need to do within trying to go for inbound leads. And I think
Mm,
once that change came in, it wasn't as many likes because I wasn't, I guess, posting as much inspirational, but I was posting my opinions. And so there were some people that disagreed in the comments, there were people that agree. And then there was more DMs that would come from it, whether it was questions or it was inquiries about the business, anything like that was just it was more effective within the real needle moving metrics. So I guess when it
mhm.
comes to the difference between posting for likes and leads, what would you consider to be the biggest difference within that?
Likes and leads is good alliteration, by the way. I'm assuming you've thought that through. Maybe you use that in your marketing,
It's on
because
a
you're a lead
giant
gen
it's
guy.
on a giant post-it note behind me.
Yeah, yeah, it's just right there on the wall. All these sticky notes tacked together, then you just use them all for one giant sticky note. Likes and leads. Um, how do I answer this without being too nuanced? Typically, likes is about shareability or just some type of emotional resonance. Like, the more people that see it and the more people that share it, the more likes it's probably going to get. And it tends to be quick and easy to consume because then more people are going to see it, right? So if it's really snappy, if it's a comparison of two things, if it's a picture and a story that's very easily understood, it tends to be like bite-sized stuff. Something that's really quick. Someone literally looks at it on socials, goes, "Oh, I like that." Like, that's the behavior, right? So it's very shareable stuff, very dopaminergic, very bite-sized. Leads tends to be more about authority. And leads is about, can you solve a specific problem for someone? Can you make them aware that you can solve it for them? Can you combat their skepticism? So they think, oh, this person can solve my problem. I'm interested enough to reach out. That's what leads is about. So to me, leads is basically a social proof game. Like people that we work with or ghostwriters we work with that struggle with leads, they don't have very much social proof. So people think, well, why would I hire you to be a ghostwriter? You haven't even grown your own account past 1,000 followers. Like, have you even grown anybody's account? I'm not going to pay you $3,000 a month to ghostwrite for me. It's like, yeah, that's fair. Where, we're fortunate we've been ghostwriting for almost 3 years, probably like 2.5 years. And we've written for 60 plus clients. We've gotten like hundreds of millions, almost like billions, Jesus, hundreds of millions of impressions. We have some clients that are making 50K a month consistently. Like, like our, like, we have one client in particular who our marketing broke his operations. We got him so many leads that marketing was no longer the bottleneck, which in our opinion is what a ghostwriter should do if his job is lead gen, is you should break the business. Mm-hmm. They should be like, damn, we have a sales bottleneck. We have an operations bottleneck. We can't, okay, great. We're doing our job. We broke your business. It's awesome. Sales. Yeah. So we've done so much stuff that I feel like I can make a post now and say, here's all the results we've gotten. Here's all the clients we've worked with. Here's the niches that we know we can crush. And when I got on sales calls with people, they just have more belief in me. So that I find that's what the lead gen stuff is about, is combating skepticism, building authority, credibility. And there's quite a few ways to do that. If you like, I can go into the multiple stages of social proof, something I've been thinking through a lot recently. So when people talk about social proof, what's the first thing that comes to most people's mind? Is, oh, I need to share how much money I make or how much money I make clients. Like that is a form of social proof, but it's not the only one. And it really depends on your offer. Like what does your target market see as credible? That's the big question to ask with social proof. So for example, when I do the ghostwriting agency, what's social proof that matters? Impressions and metrics, follower growth, revenue gained. You could argue number of clients worked with, profile of clients worked with. Like we just signed a client that runs an app with 5 million users and is one of the biggest apps in his category. That's a really good social proof for us. For other offers, it's not true. For some, it's more lifestyle based, actually. You don't have to talk about how much money you make, but if you talk about the lifestyle you live, that's the proof those customers really like. This works well for like coaching offers. Hey, look, I'm traveling as a digital nomad. Hey, I went to this like Wim Hof retreat because that's the life that I live. Hey, look who I hang out with. Like, imagine you're hanging out with Dan Coe and you post a picture like, hey, Dan Coe and I went to the gym together. People will probably be like, shit, this guy's hanging out with Dan Coe. Like that's a form of social proof, but people don't think about it that way. There's so many different types of social proof. You don't have to be that guy that's just hammering the timeline. Look at how much money I'm making. Look at like how much money I make my clients. And you can do that. And for some niches, it works. But there's, even traditional credentials. I'm gonna get shot in the online space for this one. People will be like, "What are you talking about?" But some people have coaching offers for mindset or like more life coaching style stuff. You know what works well for life coaching credentials? Being like an actual therapist or a psychologist. Like, hey, I have a master's in psychology. I'll be your life coach. For a lot of people, they look at that and they go, damn, I would love to work with this person because I know they're legit. You have to ask yourself, what type of proof does your customer like what proof combats their skepticism? And that's the name of the game. It's not just money.
You're right. It's so different because the social proof of a psychologist with mindset is going to be a lot different than an English major with ghostwriting. So
yeah,
it's just like a whole world of different. So absolutely, and I think about that, and even especially with social proof. So for a lot of the writers that may come to you that are early on, Taylin, I need you. I have this problem where I'm very early on. I'm a beginner creator and I need to learn how to write and I need to learn how to get clients. But I don't have any clients yet. I don't have much social proof. Do I do free work to get that social proof? How do I do it? Mm-hmm. What would be your advice to them?
Dude, of course. This is a fantastic question. And the answer to it is what most people don't want to hear, but it's the truth. And it's unfortunate because people don't listen to this advice and then they go in circles for 6 to 12 months and wonder why they don't get any results where other people get results in half the time. And it's first you need to become your own billboard. Like especially now with AI, you need to show people that you can do it yourself. I don't mean Google some AI tips or use ChatGPT. Be like, hey, here's how to write online, here's how to grow your audience, here's some tips. That doesn't work anymore because anybody can do it. It's that information is commoditized. You need to become your own billboard. Look, I grew my own account. I got my own leads. I did this for a client. And now someone might object and say, well, I don't know how to grow my own account. It's like, okay, well, now you have a skill issue. Now we've identified what the real problem is. Let's get you good enough to grow your own account, and then it will be easier to land clients. And the bigger you grow that account, the easier it's going to be. It comes back to becoming your own billboard and this thing I call the proof principle, as we just talked about with social proof. The more proof you have, the easier it is to get leads and to land clients. In the beginning, you have no proof. So you have to become your own billboard, or you could work for free as well, or for somebody else. You know what I did is I worked for free for, I think it was 3 to 6 months. It's so long ago now, I don't remember. But I worked for free for a long time and I just stacked proof. And the thing that is great, especially for ghostwriters about working for free, is these agencies are putting marketing budgets behind their clients. They're having people edit the hooks. They're having people give you feedback and review the content. You have such a tighter feedback loop to improve instead of just posting yourself and asking, like, why did this not work? Why is my account not growing? Go work at an agency. Go work for another ghostwriter. Like that's what I did. And they'll tell you like, oh, this is what we need to do to improve it. Or they'll edit it and you can find it online, take screenshots of the metrics and the proof. It's a hack. So you need some way of getting experience. You need to do it yourself. You need to acquire the skill. And then the more proof that you have that you've done it for yourself and for other people, the easier it is to land clients. Like that is the actual shortcut, is either working for free or doing it yourself to get proof. Everything else, in my opinion, is just like absolute garbage advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think a lot of it is just quoting Hormozy here, but it's a lot of the risk reversal. I mean, why would I work with you if you're so early on? Why would I work with you? Well, I'll work with you for free. I'll guarantee you this or your money back, or you don't even have to pay until you get this result. Anything that could just allow someone to feel safe with choosing you, because it's all about safety. I've seen your social proof, Taylin. I've seen you've done amazing work with these clients. I feel safe picking you, and I feel confident in getting results. Maybe with someone else, all right, I don't feel as confident that I'm going to get results, but I at least feel confident that my investment will be worth it because there's this guarantee in place, or this is for free, or this is what your benefit. So I think just a lot of, I guess, echoing of what you're saying is just being able to find your advantage and find what makes you special, how you can be able to leverage that into your own positioning, because everyone can have different positionings. It's like something that you told me a while back within communities. I had a smaller community. I was looking to be able to get more people in, and I was asking you, I said, oh, I know your community's bigger. I just got to figure out, like, what is it going to be? What's my positioning going to be? And you're saying, well, what's the advantage of having a small community versus a big one? You're able to take more personal time to work with these people, to be able to do that and things of that nature. But bigger community, you have a lot of people to work with and a lot of different minds that you're able to connect with. So there's a lot of advantages in both sides. It's just about how you highlight that.
I completely agree. And I actually forgot that I told you that. And it's all coming
I
back.
hope you agree. You told me.
I do agree completely, which is why I'm happy you brought it up because it reminded me this is a harder thing to teach someone who's starting out, but the more I explore this realm of business and entrepreneurship, I like to not think in right and wrong, but just in trade-offs. Like everything has advantages and disadvantages. Everything. And I think that's a good way to think about with positioning, like you just said, is what are the advantages of working with you? Like even for ghostwriters who are starting out, you know how many leads I get where they say, hey, I can only pay like $1,500 a month tops. Like my agency is minimum is 5,200 right now per month. So I'm like, hey, no problem. I know these other guys who are starting out, they don't have as much credentials, they don't have as much proof, but they'll do it for you for 1,500. You can start to get some results and get the needle moving. There's advantages and disadvantages. Like, yeah, they get to pay less money, but they get maybe less risk reversal. With me, they have to pay more money. That's a disadvantage, but the advantage is they get more risk reversal. And you just got to play to whatever advantages you have. So I love that you brought that up and reminded me of it because it's such an important principle for marketing and positioning.
Yeah, absolutely, and a lot of lessons learned. You know, I'm happy to educate. I'm happy to teach you something that you taught me. Um, but I
Teach me, teach me.
I would love to hear about what you guys are up to over there because I look through X and I see it as something that has been really just the cream of the crop when it comes to ghostwriting and just how people are able to build up their skills or even have things done for them. But I would really love to hear about, I guess, what you guys are working on there and just what we can expect.
Yeah, so Ghostly is our ghostwriting agency. So my co-founder Dale and I, we started in ghostwriting in 2022. That was our first big win in business and online business. That's been our cream of the crop. And we just got a little burnt out from the agency. Like we think we want to explore other offers. We want to do education. We want to do coaching, courses, and we did a bunch of side quests, and we did that, and it was super fun. And we just realized, damn, like the thing that we are best at is ghostwriting. That's what we've done for years. That's where all of our proof is. It's we I think because we started in it, we had these rose colored glasses that other offers were going to be more fun and more enjoyable and we are going to like them better. But it wasn't true. Everything is just advantages and disadvantages, had its own thing of work. So getting back into ghostwriting was a no-brainer for us. We hired a new team that we personally trained over the past couple of years. So new ops manager, new writers, re-systemized the agency and built it from the ground up starting in November, and we are scaling it to seven figures of revenue. We're finally at that point where like, yeah, we're ready to play big. We're going to go big. We're going to have an elite team. We're going to do amazing fulfillment for our clients. And this is like one of the only things that we are focusing on. And it feels so good to be back in the arena that we started in. It just feels like coming home. So that feels so awesome. Like I'm just pumped that we're scaling it with a really killer team that I enjoy working with every day.
Exactly, and it just it's that like it feels like coming home. That's such a good thing. Like something we were just talking about before we pressed record was the idea of just all right, what's working for you, and then just pushing on that 10 times harder of just different lessons that a lot of people have been learning. And of course, it's always all right. Let's try the nuanced things. Let's do this. I did it myself, kind of looking at just different options of offers and things like that, but really going into just servicing clients the best way people know how is just really it becomes the most fun part because of the repetition, the experience that you get from doing these things. So it's definitely great to see because throughout the ghostwriting experience I've seen you do, it's been fun to watch.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you watching us build. It's fun. We're doing starting up a whole build in public series too. We want to be one of those people that's not just, hey, look at all the wins and all the stuff we're doing. We want to share the failures, the behind the scenes, our thought processes. So we're going to be doing longer build in public videos and just really documenting a lot more of the process of us building a seven-figure ghostwriting business.
Sweet. Is that gonna be YouTube, X, everything?
We're going to do it on YouTube. We'll repurpose it on all the platforms.
Mm.
Yeah, starting up YouTube and getting into video now too. So it's just exciting. I feel like the past year I was in such this chaotic exploration phase with trying different things that I never really felt comfortable. We're always trying something new. You're learning a lot. Being back in ghostwriting, and we were joking about before we started recording this, is just do what you know but better and more, as Hormozy always says. Just coming back to ghostwriting feels like that. Like, hey, it feels familiar, but it's exciting because we're going to do it bigger. We're going to do more. We're going to have better systems. We're going to document the whole thing. We're going to add video. We're going to master not just X, but also LinkedIn. And now we're learning Instagram because we've noticed that a lot of agencies, they know one platform really well. And then they say, oh, we'll just repurpose on the other ones. And like, we'll put content there and you can pay us more money for it. But it doesn't work. That you have to do platform adaptation. So we're really bullish on being an agency that actually knows content on multiple platforms really well. And that's just something that has given the whole team so much energy and helping us think about content in so many different ways that gives us an edge. And we're just like so excited to be back in our playground, man. It's just so much fun.
Even the passion you have behind it is just fun to listen to because yeah, I see the ideas churning in your head of just a lot of the cool things that are going to be happening.
Yeah, man. It's going to be a really fun year. 2025 is going to be a fun year, unless, you know, knock on wood, maybe nuclear war starts and it becomes like an apocalypse. And I'm like, no, my ghostwriting dreams are done. Oh no.
Oh my god, this is awesome, man. I guess let me ask you one last question, which kind of think of like a grand thing to, but I guess what would you leave a someone that wants to be a full-time ghostwriter, someone that is all right, I'm stuck in my 9 to 5 job. Just I'm just not happy with what job I'm in right now and just what I'm doing. I want to be a ghostwriter full time. What is the simplest form, but I guess effective as well, is of advice that you would give someone that's trying to be in a more comfortable position of being freelance agency within
Yeah.
ghostwriting?
I'm going to take a contrarian take with this one that some people aren't going to like. And it's just because it's what I did. This is my personal experience. I would stay at your 9 to 5, grow your own account until you become undeniable and you start getting inbound leads and you have tons of proof. And when you are making twice as much money at your ghostwriting agency as you are at your 9 to 5, quit the job.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, keep in mind, I was a college teacher who didn't make very much money. I made like 40,000 a year, and I was making like 3K a month or something after taxes. And I quit when my agency was at like 20 to 30K per month. So I was making way more. So I was very conservative. But one thing I've seen with a lot of these ghostwriters, and I hate to see it, is they're like, I'm all in. I quit my job. I have 3 months to figure this out. Let's do it. And for most people, I don't think that works. It causes them to get very short-sighted, to have the scarcity mentality with clients, to make very rash and impulsive decisions. And I think for most of them, it would be better if they just said, I'm going to get really freaking good to become undeniable. So I'm going to dedicate my weekends, my evenings, which is what I did for a year. I'm like, literally did what I'm preaching here,
Mm-hmm.
is and obsessing over, I'm going to grow my own account. I'm going to reinvest some money so that I'm not struggling. And I'm just going to get really good. And once I'm really good and undeniable and clients are coming to me, I'm going to cut that cord and then I'm going to go all in. Because the last thing you want to, you know, everyone wants to leave their 9 to 5. But you know what would be worse than that? Leaving and going back.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because then you're leaving, you're going back, and then you're just like, okay, all right. Well, now I don't know how to work with the agency and things like that and freelancing. But I think a lot of kind of what you talk about as well is a lot of people leave the 9 to 5, then they want to learn the skill. But learning the skill, of course, needs to come first. Or sometimes it's, oh, I'm going to get the sale and then I'll learn it on the fly or something like that. So I definitely think that's such a huge part of it.
Agreed, man. Agreed. It takes time to learn. It's
Mm-hmm.
not something that I think should be rushed. Like, yes, you want to be patient with results, but you want to be impatient with actions. As long as you're showing up every day, you're really focusing and practicing and actually trying to get good. I fully believe this. Anyone can get good enough to be a decent ghostwriter in 6 to 12 months of focus work. Sooner if you're good at executing. Just depends on how much base knowledge you have, how quick you learn. But anybody, if they really followed the right system, could do it. It's like, just what is 1 year of working your 9 to 5 while building for freedom for the rest of your life to build the business? It's such a fair trade. God, that trade is just so easy.
It'd be a lot less than 6 months in growth ghost. That's what I'm thinking.
It can be, yes.
Awesome, man. Well,
Shameless plug.
I really, yeah, exactly. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm really excited to get this video out and appreciate you for being here.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me. I appreciate your smiley face t-shirt that I just noticed. This
Yeah,
was a lot of fun.
it's a little doodle.
Hell yeah.
All right, man. Sweet.